Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Jason is engineering the broadcast at Genesis Communications in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line, 605-477-3249. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Welcome, Rick.
Hello, Jason and Vinny. Yeah, thank you. I need to turn your pot up double. I can barely hear you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to have to turn it around all the way again.
I know, it's terrible what's happening with CenturyLink. And special thanks to Ed Marvini this last week for giving me direction on how to change an ugly situation into something much worse. Thanks, Vincent. Thank you. Ed helped me, and I just want everybody to know he helped me, and I really appreciated his insight. I ended up having to do everything myself, but sometimes being shown where to look for the problem is half the thing, because you really don't have a clue where to begin.
Yeah.
This is website stuff. So that's what I had to say this morning.
Okay. Well, I wanted to mention to our...
What happened to you? We were talking, and all of a sudden you were gone, and just as I was ready to go, then you came in, and I couldn't get back to you quick enough.
Yeah. Well, that happens. We've got the worst... well, not only at this end, we have CenturyLink, but you have CenturyLink. We've got the worst telephone network in the galaxy.
Hitchhiker's Guide, there it is.
Rick,
Julie has to drive all the way to Medford this morning because of CenturyLink. They sent her a modem that she did not want or need or order, and UPS will not take it. She has to go drive all the way to Medford to get it back, to get that bill off. You know, CenturyLink is now going beyond incompetence, and I'm starting to get really irritated.
Well, she doesn't have to do that, and I can prove it. She does not have to drive all that way, but it's too late, I guess.
She spent half a day, ruined her week, just trying to find out why she got this thing and what to do to get it off her credit card.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you how to do it, and this is a good lesson for our class. If she didn't order it, then all she has to do is call CenturyLink and say, I didn't order this. And if they go, well, you have to bring it in, and she says, well, wait a minute, it's a couple hours of driving back.
She's able to talk to a human being, not a computer. You're presuming that at some point, 1 hour down, 2 hours down, she will talk to a human being. That's a presumption. That's how bad it is here.
Well, okay, I have the same thing. I've got the same lousy telephone company that you have, and I call them all the time, and it's 45 minutes each time, and I talk to some nice, sweet person in the Philippines who may or may not be able to do anything, but here's the point. All you have to do is establish that you tried to work with them, okay? Then what you do is you call your bank. You call the 800 number on the back of your credit card, and you say, I tried to work with this telephone company. Here's the situation. And I want them. I didn't order this thing.
That's right.
I didn't order this modem.
If a bank does it, that's right. PayPal has to do it, too. Even though PayPal was right, if a bank calls, they have to refund the money. That's exactly correct.
Right. So here, well, it happened to me. The same thing happened to me, and I'll tell you how I did it. And yeah, we're off on a tangent, but you need to know this, class. This is Guerrilla Defense 101, according to USA Prepares. All right. Yep. So, yeah, well, this is Guerrilla Defense. So CenturyLink had my internet speed had been going down, and so I called CenturyLink. They get on their tech support people in the Philippines, and they go, you need a new modem. Your modem's not so good. Okay, so we'll send you a new modem. So and it will be the modem's free, and there'll be a $14.95 shipping and handling fee. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not paying for it. This service that I entered into the agreement, you would provide the equipment. I'm not paying for anything. Your service is lousy. It's unreliable. I'm not paying for it. So I said, I will not pay for it. So hold on. The gal comes back and says, yep, okay, Mr. Finelli, we will cover that. And so I get this modem, and they want me to pay for return shipping when I ship the old one back. I won't do that. So I call them up and say, I've got this modem. You want it back? You're gonna have to send me a return shipping label. Well, they don't want to do that. See, what's happening with these big corporations is they're trying to offload the charges any way they can. And so the shipping to me, they want me to pay for the shipping back.
Fight back.
Well, 100% of me does fight back.
Oh, yeah.
So here's what happened.
That 10% is how they get.
All you have to, yeah, right. Well, if you or Julie said, well, send me a shipping label, and if they said no, you say, okay, no problem. Then you call your bank and you say, I tried to work with this telephone company, CenturyLink. I didn't order this thing. They want me to bring it back. It cost me money. All I wanted them to do was provide a shipping label so I can just put the label on it and drop it off in the mail, or they wouldn't do it. So I want you to reverse this charge. And they'll reverse that charge right then and there. Right then and there, you're credited. Now, here's what CenturyLink does. CenturyLink has 30 days to respond in writing to their credit card processing company, whoever they use to take payments. And they have to convince the bank that they're in the right. Now, if they do, then that charge goes back on Julie's account. And Julie has 30 days to respond in writing back saying, no, here's what happened. Then the charge goes, the credit goes back on Julie's account. Now, this can go back and forth ad infinitum, and whoever gives up first loses. So all you have to do is try to resolve it. Now, you can't just go to the bank first. You have to try to resolve it. That's why I said you have to call CenturyLink and try to resolve it. If you can't get anywhere, then you say, here's what happened. Here's the person I talked to. Here's the date, the time, the person's name. And you always ask for the person's name. And in the Philippines, they have names like Trudy and April, and they've got American names. Those aren't their names. They're all made up. May, June, really, April, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
She likes to have everything be smooth and moving normal. And what's happening is the world isn't working like that anymore. And all of a sudden, for the first time in her life, she's realizing that she's now being played. And it's like she came from a universe where, first grade school kids would come up to smell her, because they loved her. She's not used to this guerrilla marketing and this there's something out there trying to eat me kind of universe. And it's crazy. And unfortunately, I do not want to see this person become a casualty. And so I'm there with her, and it gives us, unfortunately, an opportunity to eat at Red Lobster. There it is, because that's only in Medford. But it's crazy. She went yesterday down to UPS, and UPS said, we don't do that. Oh, and by the way, UPS used to open at 10 and close at 4. Today, they open from 11:30 to 3. It's really crazy how everything is changing. Customer service no longer exists in anything. And I always liked UPS.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's next on my list.
You know, I have to say one last thing.
That's next on my list.
The U.S. Postal Service is probably the only thing our government has ever done right. And now they're trying to hamstring that.
And they're losing money.
That's the only reason I go to town, is I enjoy my postal clerks. I wished I could go to town more often, but I don't even have the book sales anymore. Yeah. That's crazy. They did it. They found a way to close someone like me down. And it's just really...
Well, I'm going to tell you how to fight back. Rick, I'm going to tell you how to fight back. We'll do some Guerrilla Defense 101 today. Okay, so, class, all you have to do, and this is really simple, and it applies to a lot of things. So let's say you buy something on the internet, and it's not what you bought. The picture is different. The description's different. What you ended up getting is substandard, and you contact the merchant, the seller, and you're not getting satisfaction. You have to let it appear on your next bill, on your next credit card statement. And there it is, and that's when you call, right? And you have to pay. So if it was $25, you pay that $25, and you dispute it. It's called a dispute. You call the customer service number on the back of your credit card, or the number on your credit card statement. You're calling your credit card bank, and you want to dispute the charge. And you say, I've got my statement in front of me. Here's what happened. I bought this thing. It was blue. It was 2 feet long. And what I got was pink, and it was 4 inches long. The description is wrong. It's wrong. I want to send it back, and I can't get any satisfaction from the seller. Automatically, that purchase price plus shipping gets credited to your account. And as I said, it can go back and forth until one of you gives up. Whoever gives up loses. Right? But what happens is, if enough of us do this, these companies will stop these deceptive practices, these dishonest practices. Because every time this happens to a merchant, the guy who sold it, they get dinged for $35. There is a $35 withdrawal from the account, in addition to the $25 refund that you just got, because they lied to you. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this, and I think you might find this little Guerrilla Defense quite fascinating. And I've got a great story to tell you about the little guy who beat up the big guy badly. I mean badly. You're going to love it. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. RichardAllenMiller.com. Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller.com. So we're talking about Guerrilla Defense 101. So if you go to a store and you buy something and it breaks, and you don't think it should have broken, you can call your credit card company. Let's say it's within the warranty period, and the seller will not give you satisfaction, won't help you. Then you go to your credit card company, and you launch a dispute. You initiate a dispute on the telephone, but you have to wait until the item appears on your statement, and you have to do it right away. You pay for the item. You don't withhold payment. You actually pay for it. And as soon as you initiate that dispute, that money is put, if it sounds reasonable to the bank person on the phone, they'll put that money back in your account. And then there's a tug of war for that purchase price between you and the seller. I always win. Because I don't go after companies unless there's a bona fide reason. But I do it. And I fought with Mercedes recently. I was at my wit's end working on a particular 28-year-old Mercedes. And so I called the service department of the local Mercedes dealer in the area. And I said, here's the problem I'm having. Here are all the things I've done. I talked to the service guy. And he said, well, we're the only guys that have the test equipment to do that. And I said, well, I've done all these things, and there is no test equipment for this particular failure. None. And it's called an ASR failure. It's adaptive speed regulation. You're driving along, and all of a sudden, the engine is detuned without warning. You only have 25% of the engine capacity. The accelerator pedal becomes really, really hard, and you can't get into top gear. So you're driving along the highway at 70 miles an hour. Let's say all of a sudden, boom, you're down to 55, and you're going to get killed. And there's nothing you can do except reset the computer. And the way you do that is you shut off the engine. Well, you can't necessarily do that if you're going 70 miles an hour and there's no place to get off. And all these cars, and the speed limit's 70. That means people are doing 75 and 80. And you're going to get killed. So I called the Mercedes dealer, and they said, yeah, we're the only guys that can fix it. You don't have the test equipment. And I said, so do you have a mechanic who knows how to work on this? Oh, yeah. He's got 35 years experience. And he's been to the Mercedes school, and he trained on exactly that vehicle, that 1991 Mercedes. That one. He knows. He's the guy. I said, okay, so what will you charge? Well, up to $200. Okay, so you'll charge us up to $200, and you will give us the diagnosis. You will tell us what we need to fix. I don't want you to fix it. I just want to know what we need to do. Yep, we'll do that. Okay, so we bring the vehicle in. We wait in the waiting room. My son and I were there. A couple hours later, the service guy that we talked to comes out, and he said, we don't know what's wrong with the car, and we don't know what to tell you. And I said, hold it. You're telling me you don't know, you can't diagnose this car? And he said, no, I didn't say that. But if you want the diagnosis, it'll cost 2 to 3 times what the car is worth. So he changed the story. So they charged us the $200, and we went away, and the car was worse. It misfired all the time. And so we called the guy immediately, and he said, yeah, well, we took a lot of wires out, and yeah, that's probably what it was. You know, we worked on it, and we made it worse. So I wrote a letter to the CEO of that Mercedes dealership. First, I tried to call him, and no, can't get through to that guy. So I wrote him a letter delineating everything that happened and asking for a refund. No response. Credit card bill comes in. We pay it. I call the credit card company, dispute the charge. And I said, I have a letter, and I'll be glad to email you the letter. So I emailed the letter to the credit card company, along with the credit card dispute case number. $200 immediately was put in our account. And this letter was to the CEO of the Mercedes dealership. And he didn't want to challenge us. He gave up. So they wasted our time, but we got a refund. That's how you do it. We'll be right back. Okay, class, we're talking about Guerrilla Defense with Dr. Richard Allen Miller, our resident physicist. And so here's a really neat story. So you'll have to use your imagination a little bit because this is radio. Have you ever used Craigslist? Craigslist used to be a really neat place on the internet where if you wanted to buy something, you could go to Craigslist and look in your area, and you could find that item. And it was free. It was free for buyers and free for sellers. Well, Craigslist seemed to get plagued with free ads by companies selling things. And the ones who are the most abusive of this practice are in the automotive industry. So, for example, if you searched for a specific car, like a Mustang, you go to Craigslist and you select your area, well, let's say Dayton, Ohio, and you type in Mustang, you'll see some Mustangs, but you have to wade through a barrage of ads for tires, wheels, wheels. And finally, after you wade through all that, you find the individual listing for a Mustang. Craigslist was never meant to be the advertising platform for new car dealers, used car dealers, tires. Now, it was for guys selling their own tires, used tires, or if they've got a leftover tire or something like that, or a wheel. Yeah, absolutely. But it was never meant to be the platform for national companies to take over. Well, the story goes like this. So this guy was going to list his car. And then he finds out he has to pay $5 because in some markets, Craigslist charges to list cars now. The guy's a little frosted because it used to be free, and he figured it out, that it's this plague by the used car dealers, the new car dealers, and in order to slow that down, I believe, this is my logic, that Craigslist started charging for car ads. But they don't charge for wheel ads. They don't charge for tire ads. So if you're in Dayton, Ohio, and you're looking for that Mustang or that 280Z, you have to wade through all of these ads and pages and posts for tires and wheels. Well, this guy placed his ad, and the ad was buried under all these tire ads from the same company, like 15 and 20 of them. And they all look the same. They're all and I've seen these. I've seen what this story's about. I believe this is a true story. Well, this guy decided that he had it. And do you know that if you bring up a Craigslist ad, there's a little portion at the top of the ad that says flag, F-L-A-G. And once that flag is clicked, that ad disappears. It's gone. It doesn't come back. It's gone. So this guy spent hours and he decided that he wanted to see his ad that he was paying for, and he objected to this tire and wheel ad, those ads replacing his or pushing his lower. And he looked and he saw, and here's the story, thousands of keywords, like 5,000 keywords. So let's say your ad is for a Mustang or Rick's 280Z. So Rick would have in it 1976 Datsun 280Z in the keywords, while this tire company had 5,000 keywords, or about 5,000. Because I researched this story, and the number I came up with was just under 5,000. Well, the keywords were like Mustang, Mustang 5.0, 280Z, 240Z, 320i, every kind of car you could think of, every brand, every model, every variant, and then it had every tire size, hundreds of tire sizes, and then motorcycle tire sizes, and ATV tire sizes. So thousands of keywords. And what these guys did was they just put it in the ad. They figured out that's all they had to do. So if you clicked on Cincinnati and you're looking for a Mustang, you got these guys. If you clicked on La Jolla, California, you got these tire guys. If you clicked on Los Angeles, New York, anywhere in the country, these tire ads were plastered all over the page. So this guy clicked flag, spent several hours one day, and they're all gone. The little guy took down almost the entire marketing platform for this bully, this tire company and wheel company. Can you imagine that?
I have a similar, different story. I used DocRam.com as my Facebook. So if you go to Facebook and you write, Facebook.com/DocRamcom, it immediately took you to my Facebook. I did not register that, and somebody quickly came in, got it, and then offered it to me for $20,000.
I know that. I know that because...
And now it's dropped down to $18,000.
Rick, I know that. I know that because I went there. I went to Doc Ram, and then I looked at who owns it, and yeah, it's $20,000. You're absolutely right. And those people are,
any way, but will lose any which way, but lose. I can't believe it.
You're talking about a predator. You're talking about a parasite. You're talking about a bully who literally took your property that expired, grabbed it, and wants to profit from it. And you know what? No one in our class, the trolls are not in our class. They're just listeners. I don't consider them members of our class. But nobody in our class would do that. If someone in our class knew that had expired, they would have called you immediately. Or if it weren't one of our instructors, they would have bought it to protect it so no one else would buy it seconds later and then given it to you.
Yeah, it's just the way the world is changing. And it's extremely unfortunate because at one time I was stupid. I believed everybody was pretty good and made mistakes and you forgave and da-da-da. No, that isn't it at all. I had this thing I just posted on Facebook. It's a great one. It says the Navy has now identified 4 different kinds of aliens. And one of my guest posts said, one of them's Democrat. What else are the other 3? I had to laugh on that one, man. People's humor, that's what's going to carry the day. Just stay crispy and laugh your way through it because it's going to get worse.
Well, I think this guy who took down the tire and wheel company, I think he was laughing all the way through it. I think he really was. And in class, there is a lesson here for you. So if you use Craigslist, and you post an ad and you find that your ad gets buried by ads that should not be there, you can police Craigslist for yourself, for your own purposes, and you can click flag, and get rid of those ads. You can. You can get rid of thousands of ads. And, I understand that people make mistakes. So, for example, let's say a person were looking for that 280Z and typed in Medford, Oregon, and then let's search for 280Z. Let's say you want to find out if there are any ones that were for sale and you get some more parts for yours or something, or you wanted to buy another one, and or you wanted to find out how much they're going for. And you type in Medford, Oregon, 280Z, and you find tires and wheels, and it's wasting your time. And you get a little frosted, and you want to do some Guerrilla Defense because you've had it. Just click on each one of those tire ads, and then click on flag, and it's gone. And then the next one, flag, and you probably find 8 to 20 of them on that page. And what does that have to do with the 280Z that you were looking for? Nothing. Because if you want to buy tires, you look up tires. So that's what people are doing. And then there are other individuals outside of these corporations that are doing this. And so, for example, let's say I'm interested in a Mercedes. And I type in Mercedes 300. And I get BMW. Why is a BMW coming up when I search for Mercedes? Because the guy trying to sell his BMW puts in the keywords Mercedes, Lexus, Audi, okay? Because he's trying to be a smart aleck. He's trying to be a bully. He's trying to get more than he deserves. He's trying to be a hog, a pig, a glutton. He wants more. Me first. Well, you can fix that. Just click flag. I'm telling you to do it. I'm telling you to do it. If people are abusing the system and it's easy, there's no repercussions for you to do that. Now, I'm not saying take down bona fide ads. I'm saying if they are deliberately doing this, deliberately placing ads in the wrong place, causing you to waste your time, Guerrilla Defense 101. You heard it right here. Any comments, Rick?
No, man. I just watched it all happen and just my mouth open in disbelief, catching flies. They woke up earlier than me, and go for it.
Okay, and so as the story goes, this originated in Alabama, and it's like you don't have to buy your tires; you can rent them. So Alabama is not known for being a very wealthy state, and so these ads were predatory toward people in Alabama and Louisiana, and like in areas that are not known for extreme wealth. So rent your tires from this tire company and wheel company. Well, I think I want to applaud this person, whoever it may be. This person literally, if this story is true, and I believe it is true, that this one person took down the big bad tire company. Bravo. So let's when we come back, I hear the outroduction playing, and I fly by the music. So when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about bullies. And there's some terrible, terrible things happening with bullies. I'll tell you what they are when we come back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Rick, back in 1993, there was a movie about this middle-aged guy, and he was in the middle of a divorce. He was unemployed. The main character, William Foster, was played by Michael Douglas. He's in a Los Angeles highway. It's 5 lanes wide or more of traffic, all stopped, gridlocked. Nobody's going anywhere. He's having a terrible day, and he's just had it. The movie is called Falling Down. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have, actually. It's excellent.
Mm-hmm. So Michael Douglas, playing the main character, is having a tough time. Nothing's working. He wants to get to his daughter's birthday party. And he just walks away from his car. And he encounters bullies. It gets worse. I mean, he's stuck in gridlock. He looks, tries to get a view going forward. It's stopped for as far as traffic is stopped. Nobody's moving for as far as he can see. Looking back, traffic is stopped as far as he can see. It's like thousands of cars just stuck. So he decides he's going to walk, and everyone he encounters makes his day worse. And he just loses it. He's frustrated, and he just loses it. And it's a great video. And this is like where we are right now. This is Guerrilla Defense. So he wants to, if I remember correctly, he wanted to buy a soda. He needed change for the soda machine. And they don't want to give him change. The store doesn't want to give him change to buy a soda out of the soda machine. You know, he has to buy something or something like that, if I remember correctly. And he thinks that's ridiculous. He just wants to buy a soda. He just needs the right number of tokens. He wants to change paper into tokens, and they give him a hard time. And then he gets held up by a small group of thugs, and he loses his mind and he extracts revenge. He didn't ask for this. These people put him in this position. And he loses his temper and he just goes crazy and he starts beating people up. It's great. Well, that's where we are. So we're talking about guerrilla defense. And let's talk about bullies, because these are the people, these are the modern trolls are bullies. These are the people that you despised, everyone despised in high school. Okay, the guys that would pick on the, the weaker guy. These big, burly bullies would push around the smaller guys as if there were a contest, right? And everybody hated the bullies. Everybody. Well, that's who these trolls are. And we have trolls. And these people attack us every day. But I didn't want to say this, so you have to use your imagination, class. This all ties together. Everything I'm saying ties together. Like the tire bullies on Craigslist. So, I was talking to a guy, he's been listening to us for years, and I was talking to him quite some time ago. I don't even remember his name. If I did, I wouldn't tell you on the air. And this guy said he hated the way these trolls attacked my mother, my parents, our children, me, Rick Miller, Dr. Sheely. They attacked us all. And this guy who is part of our class really got annoyed. And he said he wants to hunt them down and kill them. He wants to literally hunt down these trolls. And he even mentioned their names. They're the trolls that are on the internet right now on the Ron Gibson channel. 408 Magenta, 408 Magenta. Keith D. He wants to hunt them down and kill them. I was on stage in Missouri doing a presentation on great lies like the moon landing, and I was heckled. I had the largest seminar presentation at this particular preparedness convention. It was standing room only. There were more people than there were seats. I mean, there were so many people there. There were people on stage because there was no more room, and there were people behind me. When have you seen a presentation with the guest behind the speaker? Well, that's what happened. This was several years ago. And this one guy who was standing right even with me was a heckler. And I would say something and he would heckle me from right next to me. And I turned to him and I looked at him and I said to the attendees in the seminar, would you like to hear this man speak? Because I can step down. And they all shouted no. And then this guy continued to heckle me. And I said it again. And I finally said to this guy on the microphone, sir, I can't guarantee your safety. You might want to leave before this group does something. I cannot guarantee your safety. And that guy left. Now, I said,
I have a story from high school. I don't know how much time we have.
No, we're out of time for this segment, but we'll do that when we come back. But all of this ties together. All of this is about bullies and how you deal with them. We didn't plan on doing this, class, but this is a good...
No, it came out naturally because that's what's happening.
Yeah, this is what's happening all across the United States.
And that's why you and I work well together, Vinny. We just seemingly are in sync with the same issues.
we're gonna take down these bullies. And I'll tell you a little bit more, and so is Rick when we come back. We decided to just call this Guerrilla Defense 101. This is not something that we planned on talking about. It just kind of happened, but we've had it. And we're not the only ones who've had it. Let me give you an example. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with me, but I want you to imagine this. So a letter comes into the farm, and no return address on it. And it says, and I'm paraphrasing, I hate it when trolls attack you and Rick Miller on USA Prepares. Trolls like 408 Magenta, 408 Magenta, and Keith D. are ruining this country. Me and my vet buddies are going to hunt them down. What I'm trying to tell you is people have had it. People are now using the tactics by telling these people, this is how they're going to respond. Can you imagine receiving a letter like that in the mail with no return address? Not signed.
Let me
and my buddies
tell you
are
a
hunt
true
them down.
story. This is a true story. I grew up, most people probably know or remember, I grew up in the Philippines. Mom was Indochina Theater working with Alkali Halide, which was Kodak Company, and she ran Indochina. And so they stuck me into Buddhist missionary schools when I was 4 years old. And because I was Caucasian, I got beat up a lot in the Philippines going to school. And that's where I learned how to play martial arts. That's where I learned how to play chess. Old men would sit on the corners and play chess, and as a little boy, I would compete with them. What happened was, in junior high, I got myself a little bit of a reputation being a tough hombre on the football field. And so in high school, my first day of high school, as a freshman, here I am going into high school. It was third period, first day of school. I'm in the showers, naked, and it's all wet from the previous class when the bully came up to me and said, he was twice my size, physically, twice my weight, and he was a monster, and he came up and he said, I hear you're some kind of a tough hombre, and I just looked at him, and I knew immediately that I could not take him. Weight matters. It doesn't matter how good you are, weight is the bottom line. And so he tried to get me into a fight, and I looked around. It was wet. There's no way anybody would get out of there without getting hurt. So I just stood there, and he hit me in the face. Bullies normally in younger ages don't even go to that place first. He hit me in the face, and then he called me chicken and turned his head. When he turned his head and started walking away, what I did was the unexpected. I picked up a baseball bat and I broke his head open. And what happened next was I was expelled the first day of high school. 2 weeks later, when I was back in school and he got out of the hospital, he got me out in the parking lot, and he was so big he could pick me up with one hand, and he picked me up, and he said, I'm going to do you. And I just looked at him and said, you better do a really good job, or I'm going to get you again. And he thought about it, put me down, and I was never bothered by bullies again. And all of the bullies in high school respected my unexpected responses. I was not going to fight them. I would take them down one way or another. And if I couldn't do it this way, I would do it that way. I had no fear anymore. And what happened is bullies respect people that are not afraid of them. And it has nothing to do with strength.
Okay. So we've had bullies for a long time. When I was in elementary school, we had, a couple large guys that they like pushing people around, but it wasn't really serious. It was no fun, but it really wasn't serious. And a bunch of us stood up to them, and one at a time, and just decided that we would not take it anymore. But that happened. But now it's a different level. So there's a story about this bullying. It's a tragedy. It's on the internet. You can search it. And so there's a 13-year-old boy who was in school in California, the Landmark Middle School in Moreno, California. This happened just like a day or two ago. And this boy, whose name was Diego, He was sucker punched in the face by one boy, and then right after that, hit in the side of the head by another boy. He fell over, and the attack was so vicious, these two sucker punches, so vicious that he was hospitalized and died. And of course, the school says it's a tragedy, and yes, it is. But here's what's happened. You know, when I was in school, there was no truancy officers. Then we had truancy officers. Then we had school security officers. Now we have armed people, metal detectors, searching of lockers, police dogs, police walkthroughs. We have all this going on in the public training camp because it's out of control. How did it get that way? How did we get such crazy, over-the-top violence where people die going to school? And then these mothers and fathers are so ignorant that they will, well, Johnny, it's okay. I mean, they're just bullies. It'll be okay. And then their children end up getting killed going to the public training camp. So why is it that we allow this? Well, I've run for the school board unsuccessfully, as everything I've run for in the corrupt state of Missouri, I've been unsuccessful in achieving because the system is rigged. But you can gang up on the school board. You can gang up, get all your buddies, your parent friends, men and women, to storm the school board and say, you're going to fix this. You're going to fix it. You've got bullies. You're going to throw them out of school. We're not going to allow this. We're not going to pay taxes to pay you guys to do a miserable job of protecting our children. This is a learning environment. You're going to fix it or we're going to remove you. That's what you do. Well, so this boy got sucker punched and died by bullies. So there are all kinds of bullies. There are bullies who use Facebook, and they say to this young teenage girl, this impressionable girl, she's funny looking. She's ugly. We don't like her. And they do it enough so that the child hangs herself or shoots herself, kills herself. It's going on all the time. And it has to stop. So what we're talking about is guerrilla tactics. So I think if you know who the bullies are, you can send them a letter. Just like that letter I told you about. You can send them a letter and you can say, you're a bully and we're waiting for you. You have to sign it. You're a bully and we're waiting for you. Send it to their house. See what happens. You're a bully, but there's more of us. We know where you live. That's all you have to do. Do that a few times. Do it for a couple weeks. Unsigned. Don't tell anybody you're doing it. Just do it. And you know what? I'll bet you get results. And I'd love to hear about it. So if you decide that you're going to use some of these guerrilla tactics for defense against these miserable bullies, let me know how it works. I told you that I got a call from a guy who wants to kill. He said, I couldn't believe it. He said, I want to kill him. I'm going to hunt him down. I'm going to kill him. Because it bothers me the way he talked about your mom. My mom. One of our students somewhere in the world wants to hunt down these bullies who have attacked my mom. My mom has never been on the radio with me. Neither's my dad. Neither of our children. Neither is Mrs. Finelli. But yet, they seem to get attacked. What kind of a sycophant does that kind of thing? That's the bully. That's the peeping Tom. That's the pervert. That's the parasite. And you got to ask yourself, what good do they bring to the world? What good does a bully bring to the world? I want to know. Can you think of anything, Rick?
Well, the key is a bully is doing it because he's afraid. Always remember, it's coming from a place of fear, so he's trying to put it back in someone else. And once you understand that, you can have pity for him. My friends that were nerds mostly would come up to me and say, "This guy is going to beat me up and I'm afraid." And I would go up to the bully and I'd say, as a special favor to me, would you leave Don alone? He's peeing his pants. He's afraid of you. You don't need to do that. As a favor for me, they always respected the fact that I was smarter, and they would get him by them not expecting a baseball bat or something where I had no fear, because bullying is like being blackmailed. It is the little death, and there is no way back home. If someone ever tried to blackmail me, I have no fear of going down and taking them with me, so they and others will think twice the next time they try to blackmail or bully me. That's what I learned as a child in the Philippines.
Rick, one of our boys decided he wanted to, he'd been homeschooled all his life. He'd never been to the public training camp. Never. Not kindergarten, not elementary school. And when we moved to Missouri, he said, I'd like to try public school for high school. I'd like to see what it's like. And my wife and I talked about it, and we said, sure. If that's what you want to do, sure. When we come back, I'll tell you what happened. So he went to public school as a freshman in high school. First time he ever went to school. And boy, did he get picked on by these tough farm bullies. Boy, did he get picked on. You won't believe what happened. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us, richardallenmiller.com, richardalanmiller.com. So, Rick, all of our children were homeschooled. And as part of their education, we enrolled them in karate classes. So they all went to karate classes for 5 years, 3 times a week, 3 hours per class. And one night per week was fight night. And all of our children would fight once a week with those students in their same rank. So when they were white belts, they would fight white belts. When they were green belts, they would fight green belts. When they were blue belts, they'd fight blue belts. When red, they'd fight red. And they were black, they'd fight black. 2 of our children reached the rank of 2nd degree black belt. So you become black belt, and then you can continue on to get higher degrees in black belt. Well, all of our children participated in the local area, the town or city fights with, other karate clubs or units, if you will. And they all participated in, like the local championships, the county championships, the state championships, the regional championships with like 6 states. And they all participated in the national. They qualified to participate in the national championship at Disney Wide World of Sports.
So I was 16 when I first became homeless.
One of our children took 3rd place in the nation. Well, he's the guy that wanted to go to the public training camp as a freshman. And when he got there, the farm boys here in Missouri have this test. And they just push you around, and they're just miserable little thugs. And they've decided at this time that they were going to show our son where his position was in the pecking order. Well, he would come home from school, and I'd say, hey, how was your day? And he'd put his head down. I said, what's going on? And finally, after a bunch of days, he told me that it was really no fun because he was just being bullied. And so I called the principal, and I drove down with Mrs. Finelli, and I said, listen, I just want to tell you that I'm not here to complain, but I just want to tell you that a bunch of your students are really bullying and pushing around our son. And I'm not asking you to do anything. I just want you to know that at some point he's going to lose his temper. And he's going to hurt them. He's going to beat them up. And I'm not kidding. And so then I met with the same day, I met with the superintendent. She was in the same building. And I said the same thing. I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just telling you that some of your students are going to get hurt because they are pushing around my son. And he's going to lose his temper. And one day, he was in the boys' room, and these three thugs were pushing him around, shoving him from person to person to person. And our son said, it's okay, as long as there's only 3 of you. Because on fight night, he was used to fighting 3 or 4 at a time. And he was taught that when you have multiple attackers, you don't let them get behind you. You go to the corner and you fight from the corner. Nobody gets behind you. And one day, and they thought he was kidding. One day, the biggest bully in the school sucker punched my son. And within seconds maybe, my son hit him once and put him down once. And he really hurt this bully. Really hurt him. And he came home, and I said, so how was school? He had his head down. He said, I got suspended. I said, well, good. That's great. I'm really glad. And he told me what happened. Because our children were told, if this ever happens, you never let them up. They don't get up. There's no second. They don't get up to hit you again. You take them out. And that's what he did. And you met our boys. And do they look menacing to you? When you stayed at the house with them, you've seen them in action. Did they look like they were bullies to you, Rick?
No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the bottom line. Bullying must stop. They're like blackmailing. It is a way of trying to take control of one person over another.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Alan in Indiana, you're up next. Please stay with us. Doc Ramps here. Alan in Indiana, welcome. You're on with Doc Ramps.
Can you hear me?
5 by 5, just fine.
Was calling about Professor James McKinney.
Yeah.
And pertaining to a wing generator.
Yes.
He's making units 2, 3, 5, 10, and 50 kilowatt hours. And basically, he was in a world science contest last year, and he came in second place for producing water from air, actually. And he used his wing generator and a dehumidifier that was made in India that would produce water out of air, but it needed a lot of electricity. And he used one of his wing generators to produce electricity for it. And he's actually a professor. He taught at Cornell University for 3 years, and he taught their football team. I think 98% passed their mathematic tests, and but he ended up going on to other things. I was wondering if you looked at his website.
I did. You called in earlier this week, and I did. And, he's got this paywall where you've got to pay to read more. And I did not see another way of continuing, so I gave up. I know that he's on. I hear some strange noises in the background. I know that he is a frequent guest of John Moore, a friend of ours, and also a USA Prepares instructor. I know he's on the air with him quite often. I could not get past the paywall, so and I wasn't going to pay for it, so and I don't.
Well,
so
if you scroll down his website on the left side, he has a video on the wing generator, and on the right side, and that stuff was for free.
There's lots of technology out there now to extract water from air. And this is something that everybody should know, because it's not just this guy's technique, but there's lots of different ways to do it. And it is essential now that everybody begin to think about this, because water is going to become the first important issue after money collapses. It's not going to be about food. Food's next, but it'll be about water and the cleanliness and cleaning of water. And when you can pull water in a desert out of the air rather than trying to dig it out of a cactus or the ground, you're going to have a 50% increase in your survival coefficient right out of the gate. There's lots of ways of pulling water of air.
Do you have a question? Do you have a question about the wind generators or about extracting water from air that you'd like Rick's comments on?
Well, I think distillation, I can't pronounce the word. To distill
distillation.
Water.
Distillation.
Yeah.
Yeah, to distill water. I think it's important also to get all the chemicals out of it.
Well, you get everything out except often some of the creepier, smaller things like radioactivity. Distillation works really good right up to certain particle sizes. And then you have some serious problems, like how do you clean strontium-90 out of your water? Distillation isn't going to do it, but there are protocols on how to do that next. One of the cleanest ways to do water is to pull it from the ground, because the ground is basically an exceptional filter. And other than Flint, Michigan, and all the, what are they pulling out of the water now? It's just in Michigan, it's just unbelievable how terrible the drinking water is. Everybody should have some kind of a protocol for testing water, simple water testing. Matt Stein used to have these little kits that he'd have. You can't trust anybody anymore on what when they say, yeah, the water's fine, it came out of the faucet. Good luck with that.
Right.
Well, all right, let's talk about this. Alan, let's talk about this for just a couple seconds. So when you talk about distillation, what we're talking about really is evaporating water. One way of doing it is heating the water and you get steam, and then the steam rises, and then if the steam hits a cool surface, like the lid of a pot that you're boiling water for spaghetti in, the steam hits the lid, which is cooler than the steam. The steam condenses into water droplets, and it drops back down into the pot for reboiling. But if you didn't return those drops of water and you collected them, that would be distilled water. So the heavy molecules do not evaporate. They're left behind, as Rick was saying. So that's distillation. Now, if you have a situation where you need water and you have a piece of plastic, you can scoop out a little hole or depression in the earth, let's say a couple feet wide, and you put a piece of plastic over that, and the plastic has a dip in the middle where it gets lower, and you put a little cup right under that dip in the hole, in the depression. The water that's evaporating will hit the cooler surface of the plastic, if it's in the evening, let's say, and it will drip, drip, drip down into that cup, and you'll be able to get distilled water. So there are a whole bunch of ways of doing this. Now, my interest in what you said was about these wind turbines, because I have a solar system. It works really well when the sun is shining, but at night the sun's not shining. Cloudy days, the sun's not so good. Snow, sun's not so good. Chemtrails, sun's not so good. So what about his wind turbine? You talked about the 2, 3, 5, 10, and 50 kilowatt wind turbines. 50 kilowatts is pretty big. So what do you like about his?
Well, it's more compact. and I think it goes right to AC. And I think he mentioned that you only use 8-gauge wire on his whole system to run the AC around.
Yeah. As far as I know, all the wind generators are AC. They generate alternating current, and even your alternator in your car generates alternating current. And the reason that you have a rectifier bridge, a full-wave rectifier bridge, is to convert the AC to DC. Yeah, that all makes sense. But what's so great about his wind generator? Is it a turbine design? Is it multiple turbines? Is it fan blades? What's the deal?
His system's more efficient. I think that's one of the, wind energy as it is has a lot of impedance. I mean, there's a lot of power loss. And so the conversion of the wind to power is not very efficient. And that's what the Cornell man was doing. Oregon, right now, they're using buoys and just the tide moving up and down. And that alone can generate power, just using the turning of the earth and the tides.
I think it's a fan blade system where you don't just have 3 blades sticking out. It's more like a jet engine fan blade.
So it's a turbine.
It catches 90% of the air that is going through it.
Yeah.
Okay, so he picked up the efficiency mechanically.
Right.
Right.
Yes, and that's a great design. I looked at wind generators because I was thinking about putting one on the farm, and I looked at the 3-blade system, and I looked at 5 blades, 7 blades, and there's a difference in efficiency, and some work better in fast wind speed, some work better in slow wind speeds.
Right.
You could take a 5-blade, a 7-blade, and a 3-blade, same physical dimensions, but the number of blades are different. And in the same wind, one may turn and the other may not, because of the number of blades. And the one that I liked was the helical. I thought that was pretty cool, but wind turbine sounds good too.
Yeah. About the water filters, I just picked up a mini water filter, a Sawyer mini, and it goes down to 1 micron, and it's like a $20 unit, and you can back flush it, and it'll do 100,000 gallons.
Well, really? 100,000 gallons?
Yeah, that's what they say.
yeah, and
China doing their thing. Never trust China, man. They have no due diligence on anything. I used to import synephrine and other kinds of chemistry from China, from the bitter orange, because it was cheaper than Europe. But China has no FDA kinds of regulation, and who knows what's going to land in L.A. Truly, China is terrible in the world from that point of view. You can't trust them for anything.
I think the company's in the United States, anyway.
Alan, let me just put this in perspective. How big is this device? You can put it in your pocket?
It's probably the length of 3 fingers. It's 5 inches long.
All right.
And it's a membrane filtration down to 1 month.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna tell you a perspective that I think you ought to consider, and then you're not going to believe what you just told me. Right. So a fuel tank like farmers have, 4 feet tall, 11.5 feet long. So a cylinder, okay, on its side, 4 feet tall, 11.5 feet long, holds 1,000 gallons. You're talking about 100 of them, right? 100,000 gallons?
I'm not sure. I'm not correct on the filtration, but
okay. Well, I just wanted to put in perspective. If you put that much water through this little thing, it's going to clog up. No matter what. No matter what.
Yeah. Well, you're able to backflush it, and they give you a syringe to backflush it.
Yeah. You're going to be backflushing it like a lot.
Well,
Maybe.
The whole thing is $20.
Yeah. Well, the price is, to me, Ellen, I'm not trying to beat you up. I just want to make sure that you understand and our class understands. Some of these claims are beyond ridiculous. And that's one of them. And I'm not pointing at you. I'm pointing at the claim. If those guys are saying that, they're out of their minds. And if they...
all the wing generators, all the generators, air generators, are DC, basically. This one, the wing generator, is basically AC.
Plus, I just want to clarify a point. Generators produce alternating current. Now, wind generators produce alternating current. And to convert it to DC, there's a converter. It's usually a full bridge rectifier, okay, a diode rectifier. So alternators and generators produce alternating current. They are converted to DC, and that, just keep that in mind when you wonder what kind of electricity a generator produces. George is with us in New Hampshire. I just want to mention one quick thing. Tomorrow, hour number 2, it's going to be just me, and I'm going to try my best to talk about how I do things that I've written in my book. You can't buy my book. I haven't published it, and I don't even know if I want to. But I've got my notes, and I'm going to be talking about how I do things, hour number 2, tomorrow. George in New Hampshire, welcome.
Hi, Vincent, and hello, Dr. Rick. If you don't mind, may I just weigh in quick on the bully situation?
Sure.
All right. I was just going to say that Adolf Hitler, 36, violated the Versailles Treaty in the Rhineland. He had his soldiers march through there, and it was demilitarized, and it was against the treaty. Now, years later, he got away with it, but years later, they had to fight a major war that maybe in excess of 50 million people were murdered and slaughtered in a war that could have been largely avoided and unnecessary, because it came out later on that according to the German general staff, they had given orders amongst the generals that even if one French or one English division just put in an appearance on the horizon, didn't have to come into the region, just basically mobilized and just sat there on the horizon, they had orders to immediately withdraw. And not only immediately withdraw, they were going to kill Hitler right there and then in 1936. And they would have done it. Now, because they didn't make any kind of show of force, and I'm referring to, like, with your son, it never should have came to that where he was backed into a corner with those 3 guys, because, in other words, they were planning to basically not only knock him down, but they would have beat him and kicked him possibly to death. But what I'm saying, it was a failure on the part of the teachers, because they could have suspended any one of those bullies. And at the same time, it's better to nip things in the bud, because bullies are cowards. And the problem is with cowards is if you don't face them down sooner than later, it's going to escalate. It's going to get worse. And I went through a miserable situation. I'll make it short and sweet. I went through a miserable situation at the post office one time. Through a misunderstanding, this guy started picking on me. And it got to the point, I was on the job. I didn't want to lose the job, so I kind of try to ignore it. Well, it came to the point where he happened to mention a Colt Python pistol, a .357 Magnum. He figured he'd scare me. Well, it just so happened I had recently acquired one, and I pointed out something and said something to him in such a way that he was known that not only was I familiar with it, not only did I shoot one, but I owned one. From that moment onward, he became extremely polite to me and was on his best behavior for the rest of the time, because, like I said, I wasn't trying to intimidate, but I just put something out to him to say, hey, by the way, guess what? I have one of those, and here's something else about it. What do you guys think?
I've got a comment on that. So many years ago, Mrs. Finelli was working for a large chemical company, and she was the senior person. She was hired as a consultant because the chemical company didn't have management that knew enough about math and computers to run the project. So my wife headed this project. She was not an employee. She was a consultant to DuPont. And there was this black girl. I'm going to tell it like it is. These are facts. And so this black girl attacked my wife, threw her down, sucker attacked her from behind because she was having a bad day. So we had a 357. I bought a 357. And so I took my wife out shooting her 357 Magnum. And my wife brought the target and stuck it on the bulletin board the next day. You know what? That's all it took. That's all it took. Just look at the 10 ring and see how close the holes are to the 10 ring. What's that? Oh, that's a 357 hole. Yeah. So we did the same thing. And that was back in the 70s. So that's what my wife has. 357 Magnum. She likes them. Works well. Is my wife a bully? No. But that's how you respond to bullies, right? Rick, any quick comments?
Well, that's the way it works. Once they understand the rules of engagement, they often think twice before they pull out their own shit.
George, very quickly, does that story jive with what you're thinking?
Yeah, but did you notice the cowardly act of that other woman there by hitting your wife from behind? Showed she wasn't even secure enough to face her face to face. She had to come from behind.
Right. Right. And I'm not going to talk about the race issue because some races can get away with things that other